All right, let me wait for this clock to quit dinging and we'll get started then. Thank you. All right, let's open with the word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for waking us up today, giving me a beautiful day. Hopefully, these two also have a beautiful day where they're at. We ask that you'd bless us with health, happiness, and a chance to do something honorable for you today with our families. Bless our connections, and please thank you for improving our writing skills and helping us to remember what we're learning. Amen. Okie doke. On to the icebreaker question. Finish this sentence. I can't imagine life without what? Ah, I know. I keep getting ads this week for Domino's Pizza. It's like, oh, I want pizza, but I better not. Hard part is I live alone now. And so, if there's pizza in the house, I'm the one who has to eat it all up. So best not to order it. Your family. Yeah. All right. Here's some other things that have popped up in the past. Can't imagine life without my kids. That'd be somebody who's a parent. Coffee, Thanksgiving, hot showers, mom's mac and cheese, puppies, sunsets, s'mores, books, rain, cookies, swimming in the ocean, music, the smell of freshly mowed grass, turquoise, humor. There's a lot of things we take for granted that we really enjoy every day, but can't imagine life without them. Okay, just some things that have to be put into effect. I don't think I'm going to have troubles with either of you about these things, but late assignments typically, going back to the rules that Big River set up, um, if it's late, you lose 10%. So say you were going to get 93%, but you turned in a day late, you only get an 83%. And by the end of the week, if you don't have it in, it would be not accepted anymore. This is not counting for times when your parents say, Derek's really sick this week. Can we have 2 extra days? Or Sarah's going to be gone with us and we're not going to have any internet connection. So can we have an extra week? Things like that. If a parent requests extensions, those are fine. Bottom of the screen, you'll lose a point or 10% possible for missing your headers or messing up portions of the headers. So capitalization, missed commas, etc. if there's supposed to be any, but I don't think there's any commas in our header now because we do the date in the MLA format. So just notice that I've got to start attacking those things with a little bit stronger point values as we've covered it now enough that they should be automatic. Okay, we've been expanding sentences and making them more exciting. So let's fix these. Let's start with just the paper fell. What could you write that would be more descriptive? Adjectives, adverbs, prepositional phrases, and the like. Just do number 1 for now. This was part of the paper expansion exercise I gave you last week that I asked you to get them written out and bring to class. You didn't have to submit it for homework, but you might have a head start if you did these already. The green envelope drifted to the ground while a car quickly drove over it. Nice. The blank piece of paper fell from the messy office table. Okay, good. Nice. They're both very descriptive. How about number 2? The rug smelled. Since the carpet stank, they got the neighbors to help them remove it quickly. Okay. The old rug smelled from sitting in our attic for months. Okay. Uh, The the stinky side of things, I'm not really getting much description from that. Basically, you're still telling me basically your rug or carpet smelled. You gave me more details. We've got it old. We've got carpet instead of rug from Sarah, but overall, you still have it smelling. So it's not horrible. We've got a reason why it smells from Derek, but I think you guys could have worked with the whole idea of smelling better and maybe describe the carpet more than just saying old. It could have been color. It could have been the texture of it, the room it was in. Besides, we got the attic, I know. Anyway, a little bit more would have been desirable for that one. But okay, let's try the boy slept. The young boy slept soundly for hours after running a wrong race. Okay, but you still have boy and slept. So again, you didn't change those words. Look at the directions on the top of the page here, Derek. The first word, replace. 5-year-old Matthew snored loudly in the next room. Okay, good. When you're using 5-year-old and things like that to describe people, you'll hyphenate 5 and year and old. So there'd be 2 hyphens added, 5-year-old. So 5-year-old is considered one term, just background knowledge, okay? Good. That was good though, Sarah. Oh, oops, I didn't mean to click that. How about the police car patrolled the city? Okay. A police vehicle with flashing red lights zoomed around the city. Okay. The sheriff drove slowly around the city, watching for unusual activity. Okay, good. So the hard part is that car. So you could call it, I put in canine unit here. A patrol car is good. You could change it though, from police car to patrol car. Sheriff is a person more than a car, but it obviously he's in a vehicle. We get the idea. All right, how about the last one? The juice was sweet. The iced tea, and it'd be iced with a D on it. The iced tea left a sweet flavor in his mouth. Okay, so you still have tea, I mean sweet, but you did put in iced tea instead of juice, so that's good. And having the flavor in the mouth gives you the idea of sweetness, but how about what if you'd switched it to a sugary flavor or a tart and sugary flavor, something like that? So you'd have that flavor sensation that's sweet. If you say sugary, instead of sweet, that would be a possibility for Sarah's. Let's see what Derek has. The grape juice from my grandma was cold and sugary. Okay, not bad. Okay, again, I would go with maybe tasted instead of was. Here's one for the carpet, the rug. How about something strong like this? Granny's beige Berber carpet stank with the pungent vinegar-like odor of cat urine. So you get really descriptive. The more descriptive, the better. Getting rid of was with juice. So the iced tea left a sweet flavor. The grape juice maybe tasted cold and sugary. Okay, so keep working on expanding sentences and adding adjectives, adverbs, prepositional phrases, and more. But don't forget when it says to replace the noun and verb, you actually do replace them, which means get rid of them. So was should not have been part of that sentence. Okay, rough draft comments. Main thing I will see is people forgetting our first punctuation rule, that I, CCI rule. So remember the fanboys, keep an eye out for them. Also be careful that just because you see the word and, make sure there is an actual independent clause after the and as well. There's a lot of informal language that gets popping up. Most often I'll see words such as like in the writing. You don't tend to use via, but lots and like will come up often. That's very informal, has minimal meaning to it. So make sure you use stronger words instead of that. Don't be casual in your speech. Spacing errors, do make sure you double space everything. So as I go through your narrative essay, let me just pull this open real quick. Okay, we've got spacing issues on Derek's. And let's see, Sarah's does not have spacing issues. So Derek, what you'll need to do to fix spacing, such as the essay you turned in, is once you've written it, if you haven't done it before, you need to make sure that you just highlight everything, go up to the paragraph settings, and make sure where it has those little boxes you can click for space before or after the paragraph, that they are both zeroed out. So that has to do with a setting more than just a submission error, okay? Because I can double check that. Let me do this real quick. Okay, so I'm going to show you what the issue is. Let me do a share screen, and this might help Sarah as well. So let me add another share here. Okay, so you should see Derek's, let's see where to go. This one. Here, Derek's. Okay, what I did was I asked it to show me the editing marks. So every time you see this little backwards P with an extra line, that means a paragraph. This means you are hitting your enter key when you shouldn't. Instead, you should have told the entire paper to double space this. If I double check this now, if I go up to the paragraph settings, this is another spot. Do you see this spacing about midway down? It says spacing before 0 points, spacing after 8 points. You need to zero that out to nothing, 0. So double spacing is fine. And then that should set this way. And then whenever you hit enter, you shouldn't need to do much more. I mean, this just kind of shows me where the editing is. So let me take off the editing marks for right now. Take that off. There we go. Okay, so that would fix that. To fix the part like between the heading and your between paragraphs, so notice between your title and your first paragraph, there's extra space. Between the second paragraph and so forth, there's extra space. Again, you would have to highlight everything. Oops, I don't want to grab the header though. I want to start with let me just do the paragraphs for now and fix these. So grab all your paragraphs. I go back up to the paragraph settings. I take out that after and make that a 0. See where that is. And then it takes it out. Now, if you look between the paragraphs, there is no extra space. So if I'm looking at this section here, except for me noticing the indent, I wouldn't know where the paragraph starts. And that's exactly how it ought to be. So I would have to do the same thing around here and make sure that that is zeroed out. 0. And then now there won't be any extra spacing there. All right, let's stop sharing that. Did you see that? Did it come up okay? All right, good. All right, so that's where the fix is for that. Let's tuck this away. All right, catchy titles. So how did you title yours? We have my bar parkour injury, and Sarah had lights, camera, action. So they were both fine for titles. So catchy enough, good. Punctuation book is a good place if you're not sure about how to punctuate it. You can also Google things. You can even talk to your phone and say, how do I punctuate? And then you say the sentence, and it might help you that way even. But there's a lot of punctuation helps here and there. So if you were to fix this, I have plenty of homework this week. For example, a Spanish test, 2 algebra worksheets, and a rough draft and intermediate composition. If you wanted to punctuate this, you could look it up. You could take the whole sentence, pop it into Google, and it might punctuate it for you, or into Grammar. Grammarly is a good site to use for helps too when you're writing. You can post your entire essay into Grammarly, and it will help you correct errors and punctuate things properly. But in this case, you would want to remember from your punctuation book, what have we learned? We've learned that for example is a conjunctive adverb. You should have learned this, or you will be learning this. And then we need a semicolon there and a comma after it. We also learned that we need to have commas between a series of things, Spanish test, 2 algebra worksheets, and rough draft. So you'd be able to punctuate it that way. Look it up. Punctuation book, page 5, again, that box will show you, for example, give you an example, and then it will help you, get the guideline. You can also say Google it. How do I punctuate, for example? And it will show you examples. And there's websites. Another one is called myenglishteacher.net. And it will have a whole page about for example and how to use it properly. Okay, so no excuses, right? I've given you tools. You have your book. So it should be plenty. All right, we're going to read this essay. I'll read it to you, I guess. And then we'll come back and I want you to suggest a better title than just My Visit to China. And we're going to evaluate the writing within it. So imagine visiting that city. Walking through major cities is always thrilling, but strolling through a major foreign city is even more exhilarating. I felt the sensation of walking through a large foreign city when I traveled to Wuhan, China to adopt my little brother. Wuhan is located in the east of China in Hubei province and is situated conveniently on the Yangtze River. The city was bursting with millions of bustling people, an extraordinary number of vehicles, and an awesome amount of lofty edifices. The culture in the city differed greatly from that of the United States. This contributed greatly to the exhilaration of being in the city. When I walked through the congested streets of Wuhan, China, my senses of sight, smell, and hearing were overwhelmed by the change in environment. As I strolled, I took in every sight I saw and turned my head in every direction to capture the unfamiliar landscape around me. The first things I observed when I strode into the streets of Wuhan were the soaring buildings made of a network of steel and concrete. Green was a very rare sight in Wuhan and was replaced with the gray of concrete and the black of asphalt. Next, I took notice of the thousands of Chinese citizens who crammed the sidewalks and the streets in order to get to their many destinations. The shops then came to my attention with their different wares and items for sale. Some shops were fruit stands that sold produce I had never seen before. Some sold chicken feet and other unidentifiable meats, while others sold trinkets and accessories. This was only one of my senses that overwhelmed me. Similar to the sights I saw, the exotic and pungent smells that filled my nostrils as I walked were unforgettable. The wafts of odors changed drastically for better or for worse every few steps I took. The street vendors made exotic foods with aromas which made my stomach grumble, while the exhaust that filled the air around me stung my nostrils. As I journeyed on, I could also smell the familiar redolence of McDonald's, directly contrasted by the potent spices of the Chinese food sold in different shops. Occasionally, as I rounded a corner, I would sense the stench of decaying substance and human excrement. Using the restroom was a challenge, for I had to hold my breath in order to complete my business. The smells that came to my nose during this experience were similar to nothing I had ever smelled before. The hum of the city life of millions of Chinese citizens and their machines resonated in my ears while I ambled down the sidewalk. The first sound that vibrated in my foreign ears was the sound of the thousands of vehicles that packed the street at any given time. The hum of the traffic was compounded with the thuds of the many construction projects throughout the city that never seemed to cease. Next, I heard the language of everyday citizen of Wuhan, which was very guttural compared with the softness of my own English language. These abnormal noises were intertwined with the common sounds, such as the crying of babies and the laughter of many people. These sounds filled my head every time I walked out of the door into the streets of Wuhan. It is always exciting visiting a new and foreign location that I have never been to or know little about. When I visited Wuhan, China, in order to acquire my adopted little brother, I felt thrilled and anxious. Over the course of the whole trip, I had an amazing time. I visited two other major cities, but none of the other cities were similar to Wuhan. The sights, sounds, and smells that overwhelmed my senses as I walked down the streets of Wuhan, China, will be imprinted in my memory for the rest of my life. Okay, so of all that, what's a catchier title than My Trip to China? My Grand Adventure? Could be. What do you think, Derek? Catchier title? We wouldn't want to just call it China, would we? That would be boring. My chaotic trip in Wuhan, China. Okay. Or something like this: visiting Wuhan, China, a sensory experience. What do you think was well done in the essay? Let me pull up the first two paragraphs and let you browse or think about it again. What do you think that was well done? What struck home with you? Very descriptive, wasn't it? If you look through the words: thrilling, strolling, foreign, exhilarating, sensation, conveniently, bursting, bustling, extraordinary, vehicles, awesome, edifices, culture, lots of words that are very descriptive. It goes on and on. Okay. Anything else that was well done when you think about writing essays? Taking a look at just the introduction, let's take a look at the first sentence. Walking through major cities is always thrilling, but strolling through a major foreign city is even more exhilarating. So right away, because it talks about a major foreign city, it brings up interest, and the fact that it's exhilarating, it's a positive experience. So it brings up our attention right away. Then it kind of just briefly describes why the person was there, adopting the brother, where this was, China, Hubei province, on the Yangtze River, and then a little bit about this whole cultural differences. But then the next part that's really impressive, before we get to the body paragraph one, is this sentence. What do you call this sentence? What's that sentence called? In all your essays for me, you'll be writing it, and in your introductory paragraph, you've got that hook that grabs our attention, and it ends with a thesis, right? Notice this is a 3-point thesis: sight, smell, hearing. And then in order, she or he does talk about all the sights in the first paragraph, body paragraph. The next paragraph will be all about smell, and the next paragraph was all about hearing. So it's very well organized. That 3-point thesis is vital. So this is what helps us follow along well. We get the idea of what their person's going to talk about before we even get to those paragraphs. Okay, these are the last 3 paragraphs. So again, you've got your body paragraph 2. We've got some nice connecting phrases like transitional, similar to the sites I saw. It ties you back into the paragraph that had just been written before that. But now we're going to talk about smells in this paragraph. And the ending sentence, too, in each paragraph, it sums it up. First, it starts talking about the smells are unforgettable. And then again, it ends saying basically these smells were similar to nothing I'd ever smelled before. And then you get to the next body paragraph. And now we're talking about the hum of the city. So therefore, it's the noises resonating in my ears. So we talk about, if you're just looking at all the descriptive words for sound, just picking on paragraph 3, hum, resonated, you mentioned the ears, sound, vibrated, the vehicles, again, hum of traffic, compounded with thuds of construction projects, the language, so very guttural, softness of their own language, abnormal noises, but common sounds, crying of babies, laughter of people. So lots of words that all referred back to sound. And then again, ending with a good conclusion sentence. These sounds filled my head every time I walked out a door into the streets of Wuhan. That's a good summary sentence. And then you go into the conclusion paragraph. The conclusion paragraph is one that's slightly different than I like. They restated the thesis at the end. In the directions I always will give you, your restated thesis needs to be at the beginning. of the paragraph. And then you can end, and then you can end with the conclusion paragraph. So again, you've got your body paragraph 2, we've got some nice connecting phrases like transitional, similar to the sites I saw. It ties you back into the paragraph before we even get to those paragraphs. Of the paragraph. with a nice conclusion. So I would switch the first and last sentences around maybe and just end with, it's always exciting visiting a new and foreign location I've never been to or know little about. I would also say that in our conclusions, we're going to follow the format writing directions, that these sentences in here will sum up the body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, and body paragraph 3. Okay. All right. So descriptive essay rough drafts. Main things to think about. Does it have an intro with a hook? This one that we just read, let me go back, started with walking through major cities is always thrilling, but strolling through a major foreign city is even more exhilarating. That kind of hook was pretty good. Topic specified. Yep, we knew exactly that they were going to talk about the sights, sounds, and smells of Wuhan. 3 distinct body paragraphs. They stayed on topic, cohesive. Yep. Didn't start talking about all of a sudden a sight instead of a sound or a smell instead of a sight. Conclusion, didn't have any new information in it. It just sums it all up. Paragraphs, I'm not going to go back and count them, but typically your paragraph should be 5 to 7 sentences in length, maximum of 10. I'll usually allow up to 10, but there's got to be a good reason. Shorter than 5, it means you're not working hard enough. And then the descriptive essay. This is kind of important, that second to the last one on here. Are you engaging most of the senses, including imagery? And then make sure that there's nothing else confusing in there. You can go back and revise your outline this week if need be, as I have graded them. I think I've graded them and handed them back already. So if you haven't noticed that, you can go back, open your outline back up, and I think you both are being asked to redo it. Yes, you both are asked to redo it for different reasons for each of you. Okay, so overall, it wasn't horrible. It just needs a few tweaks. So you can revise your essays, your outlines, before you work on your descriptive essay. So your descriptive essay has to focus on the 5 senses. So you want to help me see your place. So I also want you to help and see what you can do to help each other. So in Schoology page, what I want you to do right now is go to week 5, and I want you to click on the peer review, which is got a little red icon in front of it. It says week 5 peer review of descriptive essay, and I want you to post your essay there like you would for discussion box. So you'll have to maybe copy paste it, or that would probably be the easiest way, because that way the whole thing opens up. I'd rather you not just put in a link, in other words. So I want you to do this right now. So I want you to post your essay. Do a copy paste. Don't insert the file folder or a link. Open your essay on your computer. Copy the whole thing. Control A for copying it all, right? Control A and then Control C. That will copy everything. And then Control V will paste everything in the peer review. And then tell me when you've done that. Just posting it. That's all you're doing at the moment. You just have to post your essay in the descriptive box. Okay, there's Sarah's, there's Derek's. Okay, I see them. Good. Thank you. Okay, now that's all you have to do at the moment. Now, pay attention to what this says here. Number 2 says, read your classmates' paragraphs and leave constructive, helpful kind comments at the bottom. This is worth 25 points to you for how much help can you suggest to your classmate. Okay, so this is how much help can you suggest. So I'm having you evaluate each other. See what you can do about fixing it. The only thing you don't need to do, you don't need to comment on the MLA formatting, because often in these copy paste situations, your lines and indents and things like that get lost. So Derek's indents got lost. He did indent on his essay though. Okay, so you don't need to tell him he needed to indent. Sarah's got spaces between each of her paragraphs. That's okay. Again, like I say, when you put it in the discussion format, it doesn't always copy paste properly. What I want you to do is just look at each other for descriptive helps. Okay, what kind of words or terminologies, what differences could you use? Okay, so I want you to just discuss this a little bit. So this is how you do that. All right, so this is one of the main things I want you to work on coming up this week. However, the essay you just posted, is it a descriptive essay or is it a narrative essay? Right, it's narrative. So we're going to do this with the descriptive essays. So what I'm going to do is go in there and remove those. So I'm going to take away your posts and delete them. And when you're done with the descriptive essay, that's what you'll do, is you'll copy and paste the entire thing in here, okay? It's the rough draft that you're writing this week. So in the middle of the week, whenever you think you're done with your rough draft, copy paste your essay in there, okay? This is one thing I don't want you to leave till the end of the week. So first thing you'll do is revise your outline. Then you can do your rough draft. You don't need to you can turn back in the outline to me to fix the grading, but you can go ahead right away to the rough draft after you fixed what I've suggested you fix in your outline. Then after you have your rough draft written, go here and post that rough draft for the peer review. You're going to peer review each other's descriptive rough drafts, not the narratives. So you've just practiced it. Now you know what to do. Okay, let's go on to the next thing. Let's talk about language, formal versus informal. So formal language would be something like this. I am applying for the receptionist position advertised in the local paper. I'm an excellent candidate for the job because of my significant secretarial experience, good language skills, and sense of organization. This is writing when you don't know the people. You want to be very proper and approachable, but you don't want to be casual to them. You want to be formal. Here's the similar thing. This is written to someone that you already know. I'm applying for the receptionist position that's currently open in the company. As you're aware, I've worked as a temporary employee with your company in this position before. As such, I not only have experience and knowledge of this position, but already understand the company's needs and requirements for this job. So here you're kind of reminding the person, I know you, you know me, I've got experience here, go ahead and hire me now. You want the full-time position. That's semi-formal. Informal would be something you don't want to do if you're trying to get a job. Hi, I read in the paper that y'all were looking for a receptionist. I think that I'm good for that job because I've done stuff like it in the past, am good with words, and am incredibly well organized. Yeah, way too casual, right? I'm sure you would never use y'all, but even like stuff, I've done stuff like that. It's like, wow, way too informal. So no one will hire you if you say something like that. But those are the difference between that language, okay? So formal, semi-formal, informal. we're going to arrange most of our writing in the semi-formal, almost formal area, never informal for here, okay? So mostly preferred for your essays would be semi-formal. So informal can be bland, okay? You don't want to be so boring. School is a big thing in my life. It's better to say school is an important part of my life. So that's what we are informal doesn't work for us. When you work with a patient who's very ill, you need to be patient. Well, it's kind of a joke when people say that, but who's working with a patient? When nurses work with a patient who's very ill, they need to be patient instead of using the you. Informal. My aunt has a lot of kids. My aunt has many children, or you could say my aunt has 3 children. A lot could be anywhere from 3 to 20, right? How much is a lot? It's very vague also. The criminal system, justice system is messed up. That phrase, messed up, is very casual. We know what it means, but it's not appropriate for writing. Better to say the criminal system has serious problems. I looked up information about nursing positions. We might say that, but looking up is what you do with your eyes, right? You look up. We don't want to use the slang meaning of it, of grabbing your information from the internet or looking up in an encyclopedia or something, but to say I researched information about nursing positions. That's more accurate. And in the next one, the last one, don't use contractions, please. Many patients don't listen to their doctors. Sadly, many students don't listen to their teachers, and they put the contractions in. Don't use contractions. One of the best ways to remember to not use contractions is you might accidentally use its, it apostrophe s, which has an it is, and then all of a sudden you're also using a to be verb. So be careful. So no contractions, just skip them altogether. But I want to, and that's that. Sorry. Don't start sentences with but or and. So that's what the title of this is, kind of a joke. But I want to, and that's that. Don't start with but or and to start sentences off. But at the sound of fireworks, we all jumped. That makes it a dependent clause. At the sound of fireworks, the prepositional clause is fine. And wow, were they loud? That's not a sentence, really. They were so loud we covered our ears. That would be better. So fanboys at the beginning of a sentence can be used in writing to create suspense, but in this writing career, this writing class, stick to the rule. Don't put but, and, so, any of the fanboys at the beginning of a sentence if possible. Even, I know a lot of people will say, so, we were doing this, blah, blah, blah. So we then did something else. Well, that so is a connecting word. That's a conjunction. Keep it in the middle between two sentences. Okay, shifting to the run-on sentences. We'll keep hitting on run-on sentences every once in a while, but a run-on sentence is 2 or more sentences written incorrectly as one. A lot of your punctuation book has that when they leave out punctuation for you to be quizzed on, that becomes a run-on sentence. You could use it with a comma and a conjunction, but you can't just use a comma. If you just do a comma, it's considered a comma splice. So the 3 in the middle of the screen. Our minds are given us, our characters we make. That's a run-on because there's no punctuation. You could alter it with a period and then start the next one as a new sentence. Our minds are given us, our characters we make. That would be correct, and you can use that short, choppier sentence if you're making that kind of a point. You may want to keep it connected, though, because they work together as one main thought. Our minds are given us, our characters we make. That's connecting that we are given our minds by God, but we develop our own characters by what we do. It kind of ties it together more. So the connection of thought stays together there. All right, the second set of sentences on the bottom, the first one has a comma after reputation. This would be a comma splice. This is putting a comma in where there is a pause, but it's the wrong use of a comma. This is a comma splice, which is bad. Who can estimate the worth of a priceless reputation? Who can redeem it if it is lost? You don't want to just throw comma between sentences. In this case, because they're working with questions, this would be a best choice at the bottom to put a question mark, capitalize the who. Another run-on. Honesty is the best policy. Those who do honest things merely because they think it's good policy are not honest. Between policy and those, there's a comma. That's a comma splice. Doesn't work well. We can fix it by making this one of our fanboys, so it becomes an I, comma, CCI pattern. Honesty is the best policy, comma, but those who do honest things merely because they think it's good policy are not honest. That's good. All right, we'll go ahead and let you take your break here. See you back in 5. Okay, let's continue on. Here we are. Okay, those thesis statements. After you finish pre-writing, brain work, jotting down ideas, fixing your outline even, you want to make sure that your thesis statement comes up really well. So with your current writing for this week, after you fix your outline, you need to address that. Let me pull up the outlines again. One moment. Click on the right thing here. There we go. So you guys had to do a simple outline that included your introduction and then your 3 body paragraph topic points and then conclusion. That's all I asked for last week. So none of those were supposed to be technically your thesis. So let's think about the thesis now. The thesis will be the last sentence of your introductory paragraph. So probably the first sentence you have on your outline will be your first sentence, your hook, the opening. But this thesis has to state the primary purpose of your essay. It's going to be a 3-pronged thesis, and that will give you the 3 parts that are going to be part of your body paragraph. So looking at Sarah's, for example, she's describing this gorgeous gorge in Switzerland. The 3 things, the main thing, I'm not sure about the main point for number 2. Mountain, you feel the air, get enveloped in green. Then you've got birds chirping, rushing water, so there's sounds there. The 4th one ties in too much about smell, taste, and touch. So you probably have to redo that a bit to reorganize this with your thesis, okay? So you might need to revise that essay, that outline even a little bit more. Let me peek at Derek's as well, just to remind myself. So his first main point was places to see. Next one were the birds and chipmunks making noise. Next one were the smells. So you do have your main points organized like that. And that's kind of what we want to do, is tie it into the same style that the Wuhan, China essay had, that your body paragraphs, I want you to focus on the sensory bits, because this is descriptive. So you'll probably need to revise that a bit to change that to suit what you're going to describe and smooth it all out. And then the order matters. If you say in your thesis, you're going to talk about the sights, smells, and sounds, well, then sights has to be the first thing. You can't all of a sudden do sounds first. So the order has to be in order. And then within the paragraph, it'd be logical. Like, what would you first start hearing, then next, and so forth. Parallelism, number 5. I don't think you guys will have a problem with that, but basically it's just saying use the same construction to your words. So like ing words, like looking, talking, writing, or don't use ing words. They'll use look, talk, write. It should be parallel. And I think, again, in your outline, it'll show up there, but mostly this is a big part of your paragraph needs. Bias, number 6, is more about staying neutral. However, this is going to be a descriptive paragraph, so you might not be as neutral. You're really pulling out the positive things about what you saw there. So here's an example of one that doesn't really have any emotional tie-ins to it, just to show you the emphasis of how the thesis works with this. So the main thesis would be: a brief review of potatoes, carrots, and onions will help gardeners decide whether these crops are valuable additions to their home gardens. This comes out of your format writing book, by the way, so you'll probably see this in your assignments. So the position, it's going to be at the end of the first paragraph. Its purpose, well, it's to tell the gardener, should they grow these three things? Bias, not really. It'll just show you the facts, share the facts with you. The format, just going to be giving examples, and you'll cover that kind of as you develop your paragraphs. Order, you have to do the potatoes first, then the carrots, then the onions. You can't mix those up. And parallelism would be like whatever you're working with, they have to be the same grammatical construction, whether it's prepositional phrases, the verb forms, the nouns, etc. All right, so let's just practice writing theses here. You can pick one of these and tell me which one you want to pick, and I'll do one for one of the ones you don't pick, just as an example. I give you the three options to consider for that thesis in this description. So the first one is about flowers. Second one is about flooding in Texas. Third one is about camping. And the fourth one is about picking a car. Sarah wants one on number 1. Derek, what do you choose? Number 3. Okay. See if you can come together with a one-sentence thesis that has those 3 points. And the 3 points are in that descriptive section. Okay, so this would be for number 4. Your parents want your opinion about two family-sized cars they might buy. You'll compare them regarding the appearance, the gas mileage to get the general price range, and you'll make a judgment regarding which is best to buy in your opinion. So the thesis could be selecting the best family car includes considering their appearance, the gas mileage they get, and the general price range of each. Simple as that. So like that is what I'm looking for you to do number 1 and 3. Okay, when preparing for an overnight camping trip, you should use a checklist, gather and pack items, and plan for safety issues. Not bad. Can you consider removing the you? Can you rewrite that in third person? Give it a try. And Sarah, try to not use you in yours about the flowers either. Even though it says you will deal with, let's try not to use the word you. Stay in third person. That's still an understood you though, Derek, because your subject is would still be you use a checklist. Sarah, that's an awkward sentence. I'm not seeing a clear subject and verb. When making a bouquet for any occasion using lavender, roses, and hyacinth. Oh, when making a bouquet for any occasion, comma, using. Okay, so it's the using is your subject. Change that. If you put a comma after occasion, that clarifies it. When making a bouquet for any occasion, using lavender, roses, and hyacinth can create unique colors. Okay. Yep, just needs that comma to clarify what the subject and verb is. A little easier. So it's not any occasion using the lavender, but it's using the lavender is actually your using the flowers is your subject. Still an understood you there. Okay, who makes the checklist? You make a checklist, see? So you would need a subject to go with that, Derek. So basically, you don't have to rewrite it again, but I would say like when preparing for an overnight camping trip, comma, families should use a checklist, or campers should use a checklist, or dads or Derek should use a checklist. You need somebody who's going to do it, because without having a subject to go along with your make or use, you have the understood you each time. When preparing for an overnight camping trip, you make a checklist. Without the subject, it's an understood you. Okay. All right, good. Let's go to Rule 4 in punctuation books. Rule 4 is putting semicolon between two independent clauses. It's really simple, right where the blue arrow is showing. The rule is very simple, semicolon. The semicolon appears between two independent clauses at the obvious break. So instead of having two short, choppy sentences like the dog ran around the house, period, he sniffed along the fence, combine them and it sounds like they flow together better. The dog ran around the house, he sniffed along the fence. Now you've got that action continuing on. So a semicolon is kind of a weak link, but it does join them together. It's punctuating this as one longer sentence, and there's no key word. So you don't need to look for the fanboys or the subordinators in this. It's just I, semicolon, I. So how do you use the rule? You read through the sentence till an obvious break occurs, such as right there after occurs. Read what's left. If no key words are apparent, like a coordinating conjunction or a subordinator, and if the material on both sides of that break form independent clauses, then a semicolon should be placed at the break. So some lengths will not be restricted, so the similarity helps balance them, but a sentence could be like this teeter-totter with the balls on top of it. There might be a very short phrase, a semicolon, and then a long phrase, or vice versa. So the example at the directions at the top, read through the sentence until an obvious break occurs, semicolon. Then after the semicolon, you just have 4 words. So it could be very short on one side. Like this, the dog growled. He then barked at the intruder slinking along the fence in the cover of darkness. So it could be short like this. They don't have to be balanced. Proper balance does reflect good writing style. Proper punctuation will help you develop better style in your writing. Okay, I'm going to have you do these. Let me put on the writing skills for each of you. There's 4 of them. So Derek, do number 1 and 2. Sarah, do number 3 and 4. Okay, so split it up this way. We'll skip number 5 at the moment. You each can do 2. You can put in a semicolon and then write the rule after it, or if it doesn't need it, figure out what it might need and put the rule after it, or if it's none, put none. First one done with 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 gets to do number 5, I guess. Okay. Sarah, do number 5. Derek, I'm not seeing any. Oh, I see it. It's very light. I see it now. Okay, you just finished the first one. Good. Okay, good. All right. Bottom of the bottom sentence on the question on the page says, "Can you come up with a sentence that has a semicolon between two independent clauses?" Something looks like this. Sarah creates beautiful bouquets, semicolon. She includes lavender, roses, and hyacinths. Could you write one underneath my red sentence? Make up one. The horses got out. We ran to put them back in their pen. Good. Bananas are yellow. Monkeys eat the yellow fruit with their feet. Okay, not bad. Okay. All right. Punctuation test 2. Little bit of review because you have a test this week, but it's going to be over the sentence patterns that you've learned, including the I, comma, I, or I semicolon I. So the sentence patterns you need would be the first one, I, comma, CCI. The toddler cried for his milk, comma, but he refused to drink it. Would you please make a sentence that includes an I conjunction, coin conjunction, and an I, the first one, in other words. Make a sentence for this first one. That one. You can type it underneath the toddler sentence. It was time to go to town, so we all jumped in the van. Okay, thank you. Okay, we need one more sentence. There's one from me. Who did the one, it was time to go to town? Was that Derek or Sarah? Sarah. Okay, so Derek, we need one from you. Any of the fanboys will work. We had pizza for dinner, but it was not good. Okay, good. Thank you. All right, now let's do the I sub I. Try to come up with a creative one for a subordinator. Don't overuse because each time. Let everybody write a sentence for that. If you need the subordinators, remember punctuation book 5 has that list real handy for you. The first 3 rows underneath fanboys have subordinators. Or you can go to the lesson on subordinators and see it there as well. Which would be page 31. So either page 5 or page 31. Okay. The children were excited since the math timer just rung. I went to the theater and watched a new movie while my brother played video games. And I put in, students will all pass the test unless they forget to study. Okay, sub I, comma I. Next one, such as when she saw her brother Sarah jumped. Again, you can use if, as, when, though, although, because, so that, since, before, after, unless, where, while, whereas. Also, as if, before. Okay, I made one. It's a lie. I didn't eat lunch before class. Before the class began, the teacher ate lunch. As I walked down to the lake, a chipmunk followed me. Good. Before she could finish her breakfast, she had to leave. Okay, good. All right, now the new one from this week, the I semicolon I, such as the dog ran through the house, he stopped by the door. Make sure the 2 parts link together with the same kind of idea. So I couldn't do the dog ran through the house. My mom just walked into the door through the door. That wouldn't make sense. Okay? You have to have it make sense that they're connected with the semicolon. Okay, such as Tom sat at his desk, semicolon, he studied. That makes sense, what you're doing at your desk. Ran down the hallway. He collided with his sister. Good. The girl sprinted to the store. Her mom called after her. Okay. I think you're missing a period there, but that's no biggie. All right. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. So that's the majority of the type of sentences you'll be tested on. So punctuation test, if you want to review a little bit more for that, I don't think that that's a bad idea. I think it's a great idea. You can also look through your other spot checks to find mistakes that you had and correct anything that happened up on any other prior quizzes. Look through your punctuation book, things like that. All right, so let's go through the homework, but then I'm going to give you something to do still in class here, so don't go away after I cover the screen. So in format writing, there's 5 paragraph essays and thesis statements. This is pages 57 to 61, 4 pages. So you'll need to read through that. They give you the directions and details in there, okay? Now this is the harder part because for some reason students seem to mix this up. Select one of the 10 exercises from pages 67 to 68. So they give you 10 ideas, you pick one, and you have to write a 3-point thesis. You have to figure out what 3 points you're going to include. So say one of the things said, selecting a new CD player. You'd have to figure out what 3 reasons you're going to pick to do that. Okay, whatever it might be. You have to come up with your 3 points. You're going to produce a 3-point thesis statement that's well written. Okay, so you're making 1 sentence for your homework, not 10. You don't have to do all 10, but you do need to read the directions to follow through carefully. There's a little bit of details there that you need to follow along. Then 2A, the first part, write your rough draft of your descriptive essay. This would be actually, I have to actually put in the middle here that before 2A, I want you to revise your outline. And I'm going to actually have you start doing that in the next 5 minutes. So revise your outline, then write your rough draft of your descriptive essay. Remember, you're trying to make the reader, your classmates and myself, feel as if he or she were there with you. Emphasize your 5 senses wherever you can. You can pick 3 of them for your body paragraphs, right? Seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, tasting. Unless you're doing a foodie thing, you probably won't do the tasting thing. It's like you're not going to go around licking your canyons or gorges wherever you're at, things like that. There's not much to taste in your thing. So probably taste will be the least likely to use. But seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, one of those. 3 of those. And try to incorporate your thesis statement as the last sentence of your opening paragraph. And then you're going to post it in the peer review discussion, and you guys get 25 points for offering suggestions and help, up to 25 points for offering suggestions and help to your classmate on this. I won't judge them there. You'll still hand it in to me, of course, as well. Then punctuation book, the semicolon. If you want to learn it well, you should do 1 page of all the lessons, and this is suggested for all these lessons. They give you 5 pages of lessons. Usually I cover 1 of them in class. So if you do 2 through 5 and then hand in number 5, that's typically how it works best. But you're going to turn in page 53 for me, and then you can do the punctuation test. Again, I recommend you finish your punctuation book first, just as a good review. And your parents could grade your punctuation book assignments, just if you want to know how you did. Okay, questions? If not, or if so, go ahead, type them in. Otherwise, I want you to spend the last 6 minutes to start working on your outline. Okay, I'm going to stay here in class. You can ask questions if you have a question. Go look at your outline, and I want you to start trying to revise your outline for the next 5 minutes. And that way, if you need to ask me something about what I posted on your outline, you can do that right now while I'm here. Okay? And then at 12:30, you can leave. So ask any questions if you have any questions, especially about your outline. Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine, Derek. I'm not picky about 1 minute. You need to switch gears. That's a very tight situation for you. But do pull up your outline and take a look at it during the next 4 minutes then, in case you have questions.